Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Ben Flynn, and I'd like to welcome you to our sixth instalment, I think, of our webinar series at the Geelong Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're talking about transitioning back to an open Geelong, which is great news, I think. Like each webinar, I'd like to start off by thanking our corporate partners at the Geelong Chamber of Commerce, especially SC Technology, our platinum partner, for allowing us to do these kind of things. And certainly we're all really looking forward to today. We have over 100 participants today, which shows again that our webinar series has been really, really well supported, and it gives us great confidence to continue moving forward. So thank you for your support. In fact, I think over the 6 webinars so far, we've had well over 1,000 registrations and participants. So that's really, really pleasing from the Chamber's point of view. Today, I'm joined by 5 guests. I'd like to go through them all individually. Damian Rabbas, the owner of Cafe Lorae. Thank you, Damian, for joining us.
Thanks, Ben.
Cam Brown from Brown's Menswear. Thank you, Cam.
Thanks, Ben.
Natasha Williams, Executive General Manager, Ability and Age at genU. Thank you, Natasha.
Hi, Ben.
Louise Rao, Manager of People for Work. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you for the invitation.
And Glenn Campbell, Executive Director and CEO at DeakinCo. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks, Ben, and hello, everyone.
So, Damian, Cafe Lorae, they're in Moorabool Street. Great sandwiches. How are you affected at the moment, and what are the restrictions, the first round of restrictions lifting mean to you?
Well, Cafe Lorae's been closed since late March.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, patronage got to a state where was unsustainable. So the new lifting of the stage 1 obviously hasn't created any positive influence for Cafe Lorae to open at this point. But we're hoping, I suppose, in the next stage 2 or 3, that there's a possibility there's enough patronage around to open again.
So for you, is it more around the amount of people, the traffic along Moorabool Street, or is it about how many people you can have sit down?
It's generally for Cafe Lorae, we really need office workers to be back into their offices. And I suppose the indication at the moment is it might be a little bit longer term with some of the office workers coming back in. That's probably more our patronage or target market, if you like.
Mm-hmm. And with the JobKeeper allowance, do you think that'll allow you to open a little bit earlier, perhaps stage 2?
Well, the JobKeeper for us on our business structure really has only been allowed to myself and my wife being able to get JobKeeper. So we have another business, Cafe Pallet, which operates under the same ABN.
Mm-hmm.
So we've sort of reverted ourselves back to one business for both myself and the wife. So JobKeeper, I suppose, moving forward may not have that positive impact that we would like to open Cafe Lorae. It's really probably more focused on getting that patronage and office workers and back in town, and a few other shops, retail shops opening up as well would be a positive influence for Cafe Lorae.
Yeah. And thank you, Damian. It's an important message to send that it's still a pretty long haul for us to all get back to normal, I think. And yeah. So Cam Brown from Brown's Menswear, how are you affected there, Cam?
Oh, for us, foot traffic is obviously severely impacted, and rightly so, as people try and minimise their risk through social distancing. We're lucky that we've got a large physical footprint, so for some retailers, they've not been able to have a certain number of people on their premises at one time, which has created a bottleneck, basically, for them to be able to only do a certain number of transactions at a particular time. We are still operating, and we're lucky that we've been supplying scrubs to the hospital for quite a while. So we've basically pivoted our business model to focus more so on ensuring that we've got good stock levels, because there was a really hard time with suppliers all over Australia trying to get enough stock, and not just with scrubs, but all kinds of stuff that the hospitals need. So we've just been focusing on reducing turnaround times for people that are needing those items and making sure that we've got good stock levels. Most of the departments that are related to events, so a lot of weddings or gatherings, those are all pretty dead. But it also just presents some opportunities in other areas like scrubs in particular, where things have increased in demand.
Yep. And generally speaking, you're finding customers are becoming more active and more confident to get out?
Yeah, I think so. We definitely saw it drop right off a cliff in late March. There was a week there where it was just an eerie feeling on Paco. You know, we've been here for so long, and so we know exactly what the street looks like on a normal day, and rarely have I seen it the way that it was there in late March, where basically nobody on the streets, lots of businesses looking to close their doors and that type of thing. That has, reopened up a little bit, and people are still needing certain things. I think what's pretty unique about the situation is that it gives us a really good glimpse into what the critical mass of the market is. A lot of that discretionary spending is now gone. And so we're looking basically at the bare bones of what the demand is in our particular marketplace. But I think that people are, they're still needing things. They're shifting their purchasing behavior away from things that might have been nice to have and investing in products that are more so serving a real purpose for them. It's the stuff that, it just makes sense. Thermal underwear, people need knitwear to stay warm, things like that. And on the business side of things, the fact that all of the communications is basically happening as we're communicating now presents an opportunity for a lot of businesses to include branding in their visual. Customers are basically only interacting with your brand now through the lens of a webcam. So the proposition of branding their team members and clarifying guidelines around how you can appear or should not appear on camera for folks that are working at home, and everyone would love to be just in their PJs or something like that. But it's just created a bit of a funny situation that a lot of folks never really thought about, but certainly worthwhile doing.
Very good. Now, Natasha, genU, you obviously offer a lot of services right across the country at genU. Certainly people with disability and those in age. I know you've got thousands of clients. How have they been affected? Have you been able to continue one-on-one supports, and have group sessions been curtailed over the last month or two?
Yeah. So, Ben, most of our essential in-home supports have able to be continued through this time. I guess everywhere we had a social group, everywhere we've had events and outings, bus trips for people who are ageing, have all been cancelled. A lot of people have also cancelled their own supports because they haven't felt comfortable having work come into their homes. So we had to work around those challenges as well. But overall, we've tried to be as flexible as we can to people to continue to keep them healthy and engaged. We've done some amazing things around, the welfare checking of people, making sure people are still linked in and less isolated. But that feeling of isolation is there, and it hasn't stopped. I mean, programs like our gaming program, all of a sudden they've just blown out. Last week, I think there was a referral from Mount Gambier. Someone wanted to come and join gaming in Mount Gambier. So those kind of programs have done really well, those online programs. The organisation invested into some broadcasting equipment really quickly, so we were able to get some of those hobbies and interests online. So at some point, someone had made a birdhouse, someone else had done mosaic, someone had made a Thai curry. So people that want to be engaged and being able to be engaged in the online options, they've really benefited from this, but there's still some cautiousness around people who aren't that confident in the online space, and we've had to really make that effort to go and be flexible with the supports that they need.
Yeah. And I know how much your clients love their surfing and their cooking classes and their art classes and social groups. How have the easing of restrictions, is it starting to look like you can get some small groups back together?
I think things like kayaking, hiking, fishing, those things where it's safe to do and we can maintain physical distancing, yes, we can start to do that, and we are starting to do that. But for the most part, most of those social groups will be a little while yet, and we'll just start to open them up as it's safe to do so.
Yeah. And I know some of them voluntarily cancelled their supports, like so many people, they were anxious during the period. But are you finding clients, carers and parents are keen to get back to a sense of normality?
I think there's a lot of people who just want to get back to business and just all your services come back and do what we always did. But I think there's also a really good opportunity here to do things a little bit differently. And there's a lot of people who might use this as an opportunity to try something new, have their support a little bit differently. So I guess out of all the bad, that's probably the good out of this.
Yeah. And I know that Jen, you're lucky to have a lot of volunteers supporting you. How were volunteers affected in the early stages of the crisis?
So most of our volunteers will step down from their roles at this time. But we've done a really good job at keeping people engaged and getting the volunteers to do other things. So the other day I was out at the nursing home in Lorae, and there was some letters being circulated that had been written by our volunteers that were going out to residents who hadn't been able to have family visits during the last couple of weeks. So the volunteers are still being engaged, and we really need our volunteers at the end of this. They have been getting involved in some of the activities we've had online as well.
Right. And Louise, G-Force, similarly, a big organisation with a lot of employees in Geelong. How are you and your staff affected at the moment?
Yes, Ben, we employ probably just under 100 people directly with G-Force and People at Work Group, and that's across disability, apprentices and trainees, staffing solutions, and the labour hire business that I look after. So as a business, we have transitioned from working obviously face-to-face, and in a people-based business, we're so used to talking to our clients and our candidates pretty much 80% of our day. So it's been an unusual change for us to become so transactional via screen contact rather than all the other pieces that we do. But also our clients, we would probably be dealing with potentially 500 clients at any given time as well, and all the staff that we supply to them. So we've been unique in that we could see challenges that different industries have as well as our own. But I think overall the message is that people are respectful of each other and they're resilient. Our business has actually been busier than ever. So it's an interesting time, I suppose. There's people obviously who aren't as fortunate, and the restrictions have changed their world. But for us, we've transitioned quite nicely, I think.
And labour hire, like any recruitment, I suppose, are you starting to see some trends? I know the unemployment rate came out today, and that's increasing across the country, and we're expecting that to go higher. But are people still employing? Are there some industries? Yeah?
Yeah, there are. We actually have seen an increase in temp employment in the last month. So people are still employing. We would have been holding our breath like everyone. But then we've seen an uptake in food processing, in agriculture, in transport and logistics. So we've had a lot of people out on forklifts. Whilst people have been ordering things from home, there's been a huge amount of demand for transport solutions. So we've had forklift drivers, we've had truck drivers, we've had delivery people. Then we've had cleaning, a lot of ancillary and domestic staff. For Victoria, we actually did a surge staffing initiative where 10 of our clients all pooled their latent resources, and that's been keeping us quite busy as well. So people who for instance, e.g. like Natasha's volunteers, are actually being repurposed as well and shared between business, and that's really encouraging.
Yeah, wow. And Glenn Campbell from DeakinCo. DeakinCo being part of Deakin, but certainly you're up to date with everything going on at the university. How's Deakin affected in terms of their students and staff at the moment, Glenn?
Yeah, it certainly is a big effect on everyone's classes. Everything's online that can be online. There's some, certainly some of the science practical laboratory work has not been able to go online. Some of it has, but it's also involved trying to reshuffle that around so that students, whilst they mightn't be able to do some of those laboratory work at the moment, we swing that around to later in the year. The disappointing part is not being able to have that interaction for students on campus and the mixing, and the reduced number of international students as well, because, look, international students come here for the and the opportunity to work here, but it's also a great experience for our locals. to actually be able to mix with people from different nationalities and backgrounds. And for the staff, look, we've all been working from home. You know, I actually live on the eastern edge of Melbourne. I'm based out of this Melbourne, but you know, we're all impacted just like every other business around.
Yeah. And are the lifting of restrictions going to allow you to start getting back to some normality soon?
We're not expecting there's going to be a significant impact on returning to normal particularly for students for quite some time, because as you can imagine, as the numbers grow, there's not a lot of point in having students being able to come on campus to do small seminars or classes, but not be able to attend their lectures. So that's one of the difficulties that we're going to have in this transition period. And I know the university is still working through how that's going to work.
Now, DeakinCo, you're very focused on bespoke training or customised training solutions for businesses. What are businesses asking for to help them regroup and recover from COVID from Deakin?
Yeah, look, we about 18 months ago, we started transitioning DeakinCo and to focus it on capability-based solutions for businesses to help businesses transform or respond to their challenges. And that's been going really well. But what we have found is a change in the need. So a lot of businesses, Geelong and across Victoria and Australia that are our clients, are actually coming to us and asking us for shorter form online learning to help their staff that have either been capacity skill or upskill in which they have in a current area. So that's the main focus at the moment. We've also looked, some of it's interesting. Some of our clients have deferred their spends, their large spends, and that makes sense. But we've also had a few, particularly in the banking and financial services sector, that are actually wishing to accelerate their spend. And bring that forward. So, and that's again in that recognition that at the moment it's a great time for some sectors that still have sufficient revenue, time not take role responsibility.
Look, our heart goes out to all the hospitality workers across the country and certainly in Geelong. How do you think that all of the other central Geelong businesses are feeling, especially in hospitality and you know, are the larger businesses more affected than the smaller guys at the moment?
I think each hospitality business is being affected greatly, and each business itself is probably affected in different ways. I could only sort of talk from our perspective with even having two businesses, a Cafe Lorae and a Cafe Palette. We're finding CBD type hospitality businesses probably mostly affected because of all the office workers and retail outlets actually working from home or stood down. We're out at Cafe Palette where people are out in the suburbs now, they're actually out at home. It's allowing them to come into a cafe. Being a food business, you're allowed to go and grab some food and then go home. As a perspective, I guess, against a larger type business, they might have more capacity to go to JobKeeper, more access to funding, I guess, and those sorts of things. But yeah, I suppose from our point of view, we're just, it's a bit of a waiting game, largely. Yeah.
And do you think your business will need to change over the long term?
Have you got the crystal ball handy?
Yeah.
Look, we can only deal with what information is presented to us by, I suppose, at a state level. They're the ones that tend to give us a little bit more details around what we can do and how we can operate our business. For example, we can only do takeaway in a food business. So until those laws are relaxed, I guess, and whether some clarity comes in and around, restrictions, whether it's 10 people or one person per 4 square metres, because each venue is unique. They're all coming in various sizes and so forth. So some will do breakfast, lunch, dinners. There's a whole different range of requirements in each business. So you really need the details around how to operate. Does it include your staff in those calculations and so on? Yeah, it can be a little bit complex, I guess.
And Damian, you'd be pleased to see in the chat that Carol misses your bacon and egg sandwiches.
I saw that.
And Adrian goes every day for coffee slices and homemade takeaway meals. So that sounds like pretty good support.
Yeah, there's some very good support out there, and we very much appreciate all the support that we do get at this tough time.
And our good friend Julie Hope from Deakin University. I know Glenn, she was the one that helped facilitate having you with us today, so that's great. But Julie do you do takeaway dinner options from Cafe Palat at the moment?
All our meals are takeaway, whether you want to have it for lunch or take it home and eat it for dinner. As a hospitality industry, we've had to diversify, but I suppose in a hospitality industry, you can react really quickly. And we've had, all businesses that we can see have had to react really quickly. And some are doing it really well with online ordering. They've had the systems in place. So, yeah, we're certainly able to cater for most needs. And
Cam, you mentioned you've got quite a large shop in Paco. In the long term, are you going to need such a large space?
Look, probably not. I think that's one of the key challenges for a lot of folks in retail, particularly those who are perhaps overcapitalized with a physical footprint in large shopping centres and things like that. I think that people will be very slow on the uptake to start visiting areas where there's going to be a lot of crowds, and that'll be a huge challenge for those operators to be able to reposition equity that might be tied up in those storefronts and put it back into maybe more creative solutions. So we're constantly changing and adapting to whatever the market brings. We're lucky to have been here since 1956, and that's brought with it all kinds of situations that have needed changes. So for us, there's some things that'll never change. We'll continue to invest in being an industry leader in customer service. We'll always look to refine that offering so that we're giving people real experiences and a connection to what they're actually buying. Those types of things are never really going to change. They've always been a way for us to further enhance our offering. But some things in regards to retail, particularly solving problems around people that are needing to have returns for online orders, that's something that is a big problem for the industry in general, and minimising that so that the waste that the industry creates is being minimised is an issue for folks to solve. We're working on a project at the moment that I'm pretty excited about that should help to resolve a lot of those issues, basically giving the consumer a lot more control of the fit of their garments, which I'm excited to release at some point. Folks can follow us on a website or Facebook if they want to keep up to date with that. But it's constantly just evolving and tweaking. It's accelerated certain things, and I think that the size of your physical footprint is definitely one of them.
It's an interesting topic, and we covered it in previous webinars as well. Do businesses and offices need to be so large, and are we going to change our working habits and allow staff to work remotely more often, which reduces our footprint? But Natasha, I'm really interested. You mentioned genU Gamer, which is a fantastic online product from genU. Is there scope under the NDIS to deliver more services online?
Yeah. So the Commonwealth Age and the Disability Funding, they've really been quite flexible through this process, and they've allowed people who are ageing and have a disability to change their funding to meet the services that they want, and that have changed with them. So as far as the online, I don't think, like you said, online is going to replace a lot of things, but it's not going to replace everything. You just can't take away getting dressed up, going out and meeting with your friends. But certainly a commitment to with that funding and programs like Online Gamer, for that to be sustainable.
And do you find that a lot of your clients and your families have access to good online services?
Yes and no. There's lots of people out there that need a lot of support to understand and to set up and to afford that level of technology. And that's a massive problem in this area. So I guess, one of those opportunities for the future, we'll be looking at how we can do some pre-planning with those people in relation to what happens what is the contingency planning and what happens next time this happens. And it might not be COVID, it could be something else. And what have we got in relation to what's online or not online, and how we can support people better and more proactively and help them build their own capacity to reach out in the future.
Now, I know you manage a lot of aged care as well. Are you really finding that a lot of your aged clients, especially those in your facilities or residential services, are feeling lonely at the moment?
Well, an 81-year-old lady had joined the Party House app. Is that what it's called? Party House the other day?
House party, yeah.
House party, isn't it? What do I know? So we took some of the iPads from our disability area out to our ageing area and help people stay connected with their families. So the staff are really, really good at helping people do that. But we certainly need a lot more learning and capacity building and technology in that space, because people of that aren't as experienced as younger people on how to use that kind of tech.
Mm-hmm. And Louise, you have a range of employment services across a lot of different channels. Would you encourage people who have been stood down or need work to contact you at People at Work or G-Force at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, Ben, I mean, that is our core business and we'd be very happy to help. But Geelong also has a number of very good agencies. So I would suggest that people spoke to as many people as they can at this time. There's a number of free courses that have been offered to people who've been stood down. And a labour market is always a competitive space, and this is going to come out even more so. So we are working and suggesting to a lot of our people that it's a good time to be really critical in your thinking about what you are, what you offer, what you can do, and what you'd like to do. So just because you've done a job forever doesn't mean you actually want to do it or keep doing it. Yep. So having a really critical think about what you are, what your unique value proposition is, and the parameters that you will feel most comfortable with. We've found it surprising that a lot of people have really enjoyed working from home, and then other people who thought they'd love it have felt so isolated that it's really clarified it's not really what they want to do at all. Yeah. So I think the time is really solid for people to have a really good look at who they are, what skills they've got, and where can they best represent them. That might be tweaking a resume. It might just be saying out loud to yourself, I am Louise Rao and I've actually had 25 years in recruitment and I love it.
Yep.
But it is just a good time to clean out your employment, I suppose, closet and look at all the skills and the best way you could put your best foot forward.
And have you got any advice for employers during this period in managing a casual workforce or temp workforce, and how that might, any challenges they might need to look out for in that space?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Ben. One thing that people have, I think, potentially neglected to think of is that as much as we're all trying to accommodate and deal with a new normal, there are still realities in the employment law and in contract law that will exist. So if you've had someone and you thought, great, I've got JobKeeper for them and I can have them for another 6 months, people might need to look forward and go, wow, that means that person will have been with me for over a year and they have the right to request casual conversion. And so people have to be aware that all those things aren't going to change. So people are going to be able to, as of January 2020, majority of the modern awards have a clause which says if you've worked continually and predictably with someone as a casual, you can actually ask to be converted onto staff. So obviously that would, as an employer, have you requiring personal leave, carers leave, holidays, those sorts of things. So it's just something to be aware of.
No, I understand. The HR side has really given a lot of our business owners and members a lot of headaches. And Glenn Campbell, another really important part is returning to work and having safe workplaces. You've developed a program to assist businesses to do that.
Yeah, we have. We've developed a program and it's on training.DeakinCo.com, but it's been set up to go through a series of animations with closed caption text to help people understand more about the virus, how it spreads, what the symptoms are, but techniques to actually help make workplaces a better place to be, to give greater confidence from amongst staff to come in, but also for customers. We've already got that ready now for 10 industries, including hospitality, retail, warehousing, energy and utilities, food processing as well. We've still got to do a bit of work for another 8 industries, and there's a much more detailed work that we need to do, particularly in the health and aged care setting, because it's such a specialist area of contact. But you know, look, for those industries that we're ready for, make sure staff have, you give that they've actually got information that is based entirely on the World Health Organization pandemic guidelines.
Fantastic. Thank you, Glenn. The Chamber's going to be putting that out likely on Monday to give our members and all of our followers the opportunity to check out that COVID course. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. Unfortunately, as always, we've only had 30 minutes and we could talk for a lot longer, no doubt, but we'll be back. No, we won't be back next week. We've got our Cloud Connect event, and then the week after we'll be running our next webinar. So thank you very much for joining me. Damian Rabbas from Cafe Lorae. Thank you, Damian.
Thanks very much for having me.
Cam Brown from Brown's Menswear.
Yep,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Ben.
Cam.
Cheers.
Natasha Williams from genU. Thanks, Natasha.
See you, Ben.
Louise Rowell from People at Work. Thank you, Louise.
Thanks, Ben.
And Glenn Campbell from DeakinCo, part of Deakin University. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you to all our participants. Enjoy your afternoon.
See ya.
See ya.